Have you ever watched a room full of the world's most powerful celebrities suddenly go quiet? Not because the jokes stopped being funny, but because someone finally said something they weren't expecting to hear. That's exactly what happened at the 2020 Golden Globe Awards. Award shows usually follow the same routine. Celebrities arrive on the red carpet, cameras flash from every direction, hosts tell a few light-hearted jokes, winners thank their families, and by the end of the night everyone goes home smiling. But this night was different. From the moment Ricky Gervais walked onto the stage, it was obvious he wasn't interested in making Hollywood comfortable. He wasn't there to flatter actors. He wasn't there to impress studio executives. And he certainly wasn't there to make powerful people feel good about themselves. Instead, he opened with jokes that immediately challenged the audience sitting in front of him. He mocked the entertainment industry. He questioned celebrity culture. And within just a few minutes, the mood inside the ballroom had completely changed. Some stars laughed. Some forced smiles. Others looked like they wished the cameras would stop pointing in their direction. It was the kind of uncomfortable silence that television almost never captures. But here's what made the moment unforgettable. This wasn't happening in isolation. The entire world had already spent months following one of the biggest criminal investigations in recent history. During 2019, Jeffrey Epstein's arrest became front-page news across the globe. The allegations against him dominated headlines for months. Then, before he could stand trial, he died in jail. His death immediately sparked intense public discussion, media coverage, and countless unanswered questions in the eyes of many observers. By the time the Golden Globe Awards took place in January 2020, those conversations had not disappeared. People were still talking. News organizations were still reporting updates. Social media was flooded with theories, opinions, and debates. Everyone knew the story. Everyone had seen the headlines. And that's exactly why Ricky's next joke landed so differently.
Season 2 is on the way, so in
he
the
didn't
end,
spend several minutes explaining the situation.
Like Jeffrey Epstein.
He simply referenced one of the biggest stories everyone already knew about. The audience reacted instantly. Some people laughed nervously. Others barely moved. Several celebrities simply stared ahead without changing their expressions. Within hours, those reactions spread across the internet. Viewers weren't just sharing Ricky's jokes anymore. They were slowing down the video, zooming in on celebrity reactions, trying to understand why certain faces looked shocked while others seemed completely frozen. For many people watching at home, the reactions became just as interesting as the jokes themselves.
The riskiest comedy of your career has been delivered live to millions of people around the world and a room full of some of the world's most famous film stars and directors and producers when you were hosting 5 Golden Globe ceremonies between 2010 and 2020, I think. Yeah. Did you set out each time primarily to, puncture the pomposity of that world of celebrity and to expose some of the absurdities and what you saw as the hypocrisies of Hollywood?
Yes, and that got more honed and more targeted and more important and more liberating as I went along.
One fact couldn't be ignored. Years later, people were still talking about those few minutes.
Press, particularly the industry press in
but
America,
Ricky didn't stop with one controversial joke.
Things to the most beautiful people.
He continued pushing even harder.
5th time, right?
He joked that celebrities loved telling ordinary people how to live despite living lives completely disconnected from everyday reality.
I'm really glad I did it. But,
according to Ricky, many people sitting in that room had spent their entire careers inside the entertainment industry. His message was simple. Before trying to lecture millions of viewers watching from home, maybe they should remember who they were actually speaking to. The audience laughed. But this laughter sounded different. It wasn't the loud, confident laughter people usually hear during award shows. It sounded cautious, measured, almost uncertain. You could...
What made you think, you know what, I'm just going to hammer him? I don't care what the reason.
Well, I thought, when they said, do you want to host the Golden Globes, all that stuff I said in the show was true. I said, I'm going to write my own jokes. right? And I thought, who do I pander to? The 200 richest people in the room, or the 200 million people watching at home who aren't winning awards, who aren't millionaires? And it was a no-brainer. I was doing it for them, you know. And I didn't want to. It wasn't set out to hurt their feelings, but it was. If you're going to make it a spectator sport, then you better have something. There better be something in it for the people that.
Or was it because Ricky had touched on subjects that many people preferred to avoid discussing in public? No one inside that ballroom answered those questions. Instead, the show continued. Awards were handed out. Acceptance speeches were delivered. The ceremony eventually came to an end. But Ricky's opening monologue refused to disappear. Months turned into years. Every time another Hollywood controversy appeared in the headlines, someone would upload those same clips again. Millions of people watched them all over again. And every replay brought new discussions. Some believed the speech had aged remarkably well. Others insisted people were reading far too much into a comedian's jokes. Either way, the conversation never truly ended. But here's where the story becomes even more interesting. Years after that famous speech, several other Hollywood stories would bring Ricky's monologue back into public discussion once again. And one of those stories involved comedian Kevin Hart. What happened next caused many people online to compare the two situations in ways few.
Kevin Hart's job hosting the 91st Academy Awards lasted just 2 days. The actor and comedian was announced as the host Tuesday afternoon. But overnight, Hart stepped down following an outcry over previous homophobic tweets and comments he made during stand-up routines nearly a decade ago.
Facebook, X, TikTok, and countless reaction channels. Millions of viewers watched the speech again. Then again. And again. What surprised many people wasn't just the jokes. It was how differently the audience inside the ballroom reacted compared to viewers watching from home. Online, countless comments praised Ricky for refusing to play it safe. Many people described his performance as one of the boldest award show openings ever televised. Others argued he had simply crossed the line. No matter which opinion people had, everyone seemed to be talking about the same 5 minutes.
Tonight, comedian and actor Kevin Hart, after stepping down as Oscar host this year, did Ellen just get him the job back? Here's ABC's Kana Whitworth.
Tonight, comedian Kevin Hart talking openly about his dramatic exit as this year's Oscar host on ABC after that string of homophobic comments he made years ago resurfaced, sitting down with Ellen DeGeneres.
I'm a little upset because I know who I am. I know I don't have a homophobic bone in my body. I know that I've addressed it. I know that I've apologized. I don't want to step on that stage and make that night about me and my past.
About homophobia and whatever they did and whoever's trying to hurt you, it brought up you reminding people that you're a bigger person, that you've already apologized. You're apologizing again. As a gay person, as someone who actually...
What?
Yes. I'm so sorry to break this to you.
Ellen then revealing she personally called the Academy to vouch for Hart.
So I called them. I said, Kevin's on. I have no idea if he wants to come back and host, but what are your thoughts? And they were like, oh my God, we want him to host. We feel like that maybe he misunderstood or it was handled wrong, or maybe we said the wrong thing, but we want him to.
By 2020, he no longer felt any need to hold back. Many fans believed that confidence was exactly what made his final hosting appearance so memorable. He looked completely comfortable saying things most hosts would never risk saying on live television. Another reason the monologue continued spreading online was because people noticed something unusual. The jokes themselves were funny. But the audience reactions became just as entertaining. Every time the cameras cut to a celebrity, viewers searched for another expression. A nervous smile. A forced laugh. Someone staring into the distance. Someone refusing to react.
Hey Kevin, when you hosted for Diddy, did you catch any baby oil?
You go get some girls, so you be in the bedroom with some girls up here.
I'm not getting
Discomfort. Others argued people were reading far too much into normal audience reactions. Either way, the internet couldn't stop talking about them. Months later. Then years later. The speech still hadn't disappeared. Instead, it returned every time Hollywood found itself facing another controversy. Whenever headlines involved famous actors. major producers, or influential celebrities. Someone inevitably reposted Ricky's monologue. Many viewers began describing it as a speech that had aged remarkably well. Others insisted it was simply clever comedy that people were overanalyzing. The debate never really ended. And perhaps that's exactly why those 5 minutes remained so relevant. Ricky never claimed to expose secret information. He never presented evidence against anyone. He simply used comedy to criticize celebrity culture and challenge the people sitting in front of him. Whether people agreed with his message or completely rejected it, the speech accomplished.
They all end up saying at the end of the day, Kevin told you he wasn't gonna wear no dress until. No. So they offered him the dress and then he put it on. And what did he say after he wore it? I made my own decisions. Duh. But you didn't make it before they brought it up.
Time, the spotlight wasn't on Ricky. It was on Kevin Hart. And as that story unfolded, many people online unexpectedly started connecting it back to Ricky's unforgettable speech. As Ricky Gervais' monologue continued gaining attention over the years, another name slowly found its way back into public conversations: Kevin Hart. At first, the two stories seemed completely unrelated. One involved.
Tried to cancel Kevin for the Diddy parties. They hurled allegations at him. But thanks to all the baby oil, the charges didn't stick. Kevin famously was at a brunch. Kevin was at a bunch of Diddy parties, but in his defense, it was only because Diddy thought he was 10. Kevin even hosted a record release party for P. Diddy. There was a record number of releases on the bed, in the pool. Just because Kevin went to Diddy parties does not mean he did something wrong. The fact that he gets all quiet when you bring it up, that means he did something wrong.
For some people, that decision closed the story. For others, it became the beginning of a much larger debate about accountability, forgiveness, and whether public figures should be judged forever by past mistakes.
Said that I went to Diddy parties. Kev been to Diddy parties. Kev always goes to Diddy parties. I ain't been to no Diddy parties. I went to one party, and this is the truth. I went to one party. Okay? And the only reason why that little know I was there is because he was there. Kev was at the same party. I saw him, he saw me. He said, shh, you tell the truth. Tell the truth. We was at the same party. I ain't no snitch, but a lot of people was there. Shaq was there, Usher was there, Shannon Sharp was there, he was DJing, the Roots were there. Y'all didn't do nothing, but I saw y'all too. He's a fucking liar! Stop believing this nigga!
It seemed that chapter had finally come to an end. Then another story began making headlines. As renewed public attention focused on Sean Diddy Combs and people revisited older footage